Oh, I've got a bite of banana. Just chilling on my desk.
How about some Nutella?
I think that'd be best. Hello and welcome to Atlas Shrugged. What is Atlas Shrugged? What are we doing here?
This is a podcast.
Thank you so much for coming back.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Kailey.
And I'm AJ.
It is thundering outside.
It's thundering. And if it's thundering where you are, thank a cloud.
And get on rolling with this podcast here.
That's right.
It is Atlas Shrugged.
And we are embarking on another wet journey today in Jet.
Eyebrow raise, eyebrow raise.
Jet. So the first thing we see, I think this is pretty striking imagery. We go into this amber forest. And that's a color that's pretty important. Like we see the color palette just kind of blooms out of the intro. Oh, and then it looks like autumn. And there are traps. And Momo's cruising.
With some monkey hybrids in the trees. It's like the animals are the same color as the autumn Lothlorien-esque woods.
But Momo really, stunts on the traps. Momo is so aware in the moment, and he gets out.
No, that's not what happens.
That's not what happens?
Not at all what happens.
Did we watch the same episode?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Tell me what happens.
So Aang uses airbending to, pull the Momo's trap down to the ground carefully. And then, like clockwork and synchronization, Katara and Sokka instantly know how to open the trap and just roll it over and open it up, and then Momo's free.
Yes.
Yeah, and then Aang's like, okay, I'll save the other two dudes up there too, and Sokka's like, this is quicker, just throws his boomerang, and then the traps fall down, and the monkeys go away.
The dust settles, so, nobody's asking, hey, who set these traps, right? Because it's just, a really foreboding symbol, a really foreboding presence to, be hit with right at the beginning.
Also, Sokka tells you right away who set these traps.
Sokka knows who set the traps, and who set the traps?
Sokka looks at the metalwork, specifically the metalwork, closely and tells them that's how you know that these are Fire Nation traps.
Sokka knows from the start that these are Fire Nation folks, not to be trusted necessarily. And, under normal circumstances, I feel like the gang would heed Sokka's, gut feelings. What's different?
What's another word for gut feeling?
I don't know, your emotive state, your soul, your...
One could call them instincts.
Instincts.
This episode, we're going to follow Sokka's instincts.
Sokka's instincts. And I think at a little bit we follow Katara's instincts too. Maybe of a different breed, perhaps.
You get this episode.
And that's no small feat because this is yet another dense, very psychological episode.
Psychological.
That's what we like to see.
Actually, we love to see it.
We love to see it.
In case you didn't know, listening audience, This is one of my favorite episodes.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
It's action-packed, it's fast-paced, it's dense with world building and character building and new experiences. It's like Avatar at its best, and it was really early on in the series. So,
do you agree with us? Well, either way, you're still here. You're still listening. So our insight must be tolerable to some extent.
At least worth something, I guess. So we're going to trust Sokka's instincts. We're not going to fly on a giant flying bison through the sky for a little bit because he thinks that's how Zuko keeps finding them. It's pretty easy to spot in the open sky. So instead, they're going to walk on foot, go through the forest because that way they'll definitely avoid the Fire Nation. He can feel it. Oh,
definitely. Yeah, you won't run into the Fire Nation or any nefarious threats going through the forest.
So before they stumble upon the Fire Nation camp...
Which they absolutely do.
They totally do. Katara and Sokka have a little sibling spat.
Yeah. Okay. Audience, if you have siblings, you know how accurate the sibling spat is. And audience, if you sympathize with their conflict in this scene, then you also know that sibling spats usually only ever happen because your sibling is very invested in your well-being. Sometimes you got to talk to your brother or your sister.
That's
Sometimes.
true. AJ and I really get each other's role as a sibling and individuals, because you are an older brother to a younger sister, and I am a younger sister to an older brother. So we kind of get each other.
And you're an older sister to a younger sister as well.
Exactly.
So we both have siblings that are both younger and older than us. And so we kind of understand what it is to fill both of these roles.
Yeah, I'm in the middle and you're also in the middle, but not dead center.
Right.
That's how our family's laid out, everyone. So we get siblings.
And my social security number is...
Walk on back to the path. Towards the camp.
Towards the camp, yes.
And consider for a moment one more question for the episode.
Okay.
What makes a good leader? Sokka tells everyone, I'm the leader, both because I'm a warrior and because I'm the oldest, and because he's been charged to protect Katara, and because Aang is a kid. So, Sokka is the clear leader. Is he a good one? And
another undercurrent in Sokka's emotive or psychological or semi-Freudian, psychobabblian, his interior life is there's no father figure, okay? So now you wonder if he's compensating a little bit for that fact in his vigilance.
Yeah, that's a good pickup, because their dad was very present, but he's been off to war for a few years, and Sokka, who's like 15, was the oldest young man left in the tribe. So he's been trying to fill some shoes for quite a while.
That's right. And because they're having their little spat, they stumble across the Fire Nation barbecue.
Here we are, campsite.
And it's not really a cozy kumbaya moment.
No, I love that it's like 3 flashes. One of the best things about Avatar, there's like 12 brand new people in those 3 frames, and they all are so fleshed out. They're like individual
have personalities people. Visually conveyed through their action, the way they're animated, and the way they move, and the way the characters are designed. Absolutely right. And the music in this scene, this really made me think of this sample that Kate Bush uses to start The Hounds of Love. The hounds of love are hunting.
It's in the trees. It's coming.
I know that when Kate does stuff like that, it's a literary reference. I would like to look into also whether this is a reference to like the same text, because it's like the same subject. It's like the rose-colored glasses. It's a song about rose-colored glasses. And
who did you say is hunting in the trees?
The hounds of love are hunting.
The hounds of love.
Mm-hmm.
But
can you imagine being hunted down by like tree-dwelling dogs? That is terrifying.
I encourage you to read a fantastic novel called The Hunger Games. Anyway.
I thought you were going to say.
This is about Avatar The Last Airbender, though. We'll go back to that.
Okay.
So also a great story. Hunger Games also has hybrid animals. Anyway, there are a lot of... We could have a whole thing about that. Don't let me run away with this.
Hercules has hybrid animals, too.
We are going back to the Fire Nation camp.
Gosh, can we stay on track?
Who's smooth?
Who's smooth?
Drops down from trees with 2 hooks in his hands.
I think that's Jet. I think that's Jet.
And always has a little twig in his mouth.
Jet's such a rebel.
It's Jet and his freedom fighters.
It's Jet.
Can you name the freedom fighters, AJ?
We got Pipsqueak.
The Duke. A Smeller Bee. Longshot. And Sneers.
Go off. Okay.
Hey. Like I said, it might be one of my favorite episodes. I love the freedom fighters. Jet I ain't so sold on yet, but...
Right.
We can hold off because he did come in rather cool and just take out the entire Fire Nation camp. Which leads us to swoon.
Swoon. The absolute swoon. I noticed something about when Katara meets Jet.
What's that?
She's rather taken with him.
Would you say there's a little electricity?
I would say that there's a definite love connection.
Okay, I might not step like that far into it yet,
There's a
AJ.
definite thing.
Whoa.
Perhaps. It is Katara's limited experience.
There's an attraction.
There's a sensation flowing through Katara's limbs, throwing through her loins.
Well, look at this boy. So, before the ultimate swoon moment that we'll get right back to, Jet, the freedom fighters, raid the Fire Nation camp. They pick up a few things, some blasting jelly.
Blasting jelly, you gotta have blasting jelly. Everybody's gotta have it in the cupboard.
You got some barrels of blasting jelly. You've also got some barrels of jelly candy. And we want to make sure we don't mix those up.
Yeah, you would do not confuse those two. Just don't do it.
So I'm going to lay some groundwork and then we're going to jump back into the romantic scene.
Sure.
So Jet tells Katara, who is interested in this little warrior boy who just saved them. Tall warrior boy. And Jet tells them a few things.
Tall, dark, and handsome.
One thing, he is an orphan too. This area, their forest, is occupied by the Fire Nation as well as the Riverlands and the village below in the Earth Kingdom. He is clearly not a bender, but he and his boys live in the Earth Nation and maybe are all orphans. Sounds like, a bit of a Neverland kind of situation.
Major Peter Pan Neverland vibes from this as well. I did. Have you ever read that book, Peter Pan?
I read it a long time ago.
Okay.
But I've seen the movie a lot of times. The Disney movie.
The Disney one?
Yeah.
Huh. Cool. So
also Hook. We just watched Hook, remember?
We did just watch Hook. Hook, I didn't realize. Like, it was supposed to be like an art film for kids, I think. Not only because of, like, the subject matter and, like, the sweet, like, the scene where they're eating and everything's pudding. Like that's, this is a movie for kids, but it's like an art film for kids. It's like 2.5 hours long. I think they were going for like the kid Oscar, whatever that is.
It's like a community theater performance for divorced dads.
Oh my God. Divorced dads.
Yeah.
Dude. Okay. Let's talk about Lost Boys. Let's talk about divorced dads. What do you think of the Lost Boys?
Lost Boys, I think, is a very universal theme. If you want to go dark and psychological, I think this also is a lot like Lord of the Flies. There is something a little bit mischievous and unpredictable and also joyful about a band of young boys fighting in forest and wilderness together.
There's something to be admired about like refusing the covenant between what they're supposed to be in society, like the implicit covenant of manhood, and like rejecting that. Like it's really, really pretty. They choose to do this, and you have to like hand it to Lost Boys for their conviction, I guess.
Yeah.
But it seems like the moral of Lost Boy tales tends to be that it is not really like a superpower. It's a superpower in a sense, but it's also like a handicap in a sense, right?
Yeah, it is. You're suspended from growing up. There's a naivete that comes with being a Lost Boy or a freedom fighter in their case. These kids all follow Jet, who is perhaps the Pan.
They go there, they're still buying the same breakfast cereal that they were when they were 8.
They're wearing
no matter their biological age,
armor.
It's tricks.
Tricks.
Tricks are for kids.
And they have a super hideout up in the treetops. And Aang is always down for an adventure, so you know that they're going to go up and see what the treetops are like.
Oh, yeah.
So, flashback to that first swoon. I felt swooped into that young Jet's arms just right along with Katara. I was 11 at the time. I watched this at 4:30 Eastern Time as it aired on Nickelodeon after school. Did you ever have one of the gliders on your like playground at school?
Gliders? No, you'll have to explain.
There's like 2 platforms and there's just a rail and a handle and you like hold on to the handle and slide across
yeah. They had those at the public school.
So on the glider at recess, when I was in 5th grade, there was a game called Slam. Now, the object of Slam was to hang on to the glider, go across. You had 2 teams on the platforms on either side. And as you were gliding across the rider, you wanted to hold the handle at the last minute and throw it as hard as you could, slam it.
Just the handle
Just
itself?
the handle. You're hanging.
You're sending, because this thing's so light, it's supposed to be a thing that you hold on to and glide. But instead of this, you guys are using it not how it's intended.
It's basically the same construction as the game at the fair with the hammer, that you hit the end and you want to shoot the thing up to the bell.
So what's the point of the slam? What happens when you...
You don't want the other team to be able to glide. You want to continue to have your team glide. So the idea, if I was going, when I did, you jump and you're in open air and then you throw the glider at the other end so hard that they can't catch it, and it bounces back to your team on the other side. So your team gets to continuously glide and slam, but the other team...
Kailey! This sounds like the Wild West. What is this?
I was 11. My parents were recently divorced, and I was the new kid in town.
You were the new kid.
I had some things to prove, and I liked to roughhouse, and I definitely served some time standing on the sidewalk in timeout at recess because I participated.
This hooligan stuff.
Yeah. Wow. Slam.
It's
also my signature move in air hockey anyway.
Jeez.
This is what this episode makes me feel like. Swoon into Jet's arms, up into the treetops.
Which is where we find our Huckleberry Finn with his twig in his mouth, right? And he has a tale to tell, our fair adventurers. He's got a chip on his shoulder, and it is directed towards the Fire Nation.
Exclusively. Broadly. Sweepingly.
Yeah, he paints with a broad brush.
Sure does.
His hate is vast.
Deep, dense.
Yeah.
Dark.
And it expresses
like his shaggy
itself.
Hair.
It's like the only thing the dude cares about.
That's it.
That's Jet.
That's Jet. And he thinks Katara's cute, obviously.
But there's no buts about it. He sort of acts on that.
Yeah, because he's the bad boy in town. Let's get up into the treetops, get to that very central Lost Boys setting, and tell me how you felt.
Let me take you to my treetop dwelling.
Compare... Zuko's totally absent from this episode, but the rage of... What's his name? Jet. Jet's fiery rage feels a lot like Zuko's angst to me, even though he's not a firebender.
He's a fighter jet.
He's the antagonist, I feel, of the episode. Anyway.
Yes, I think you're correct.
Astute.
That Jet ain't right.
That boy ain't right.
Jet.
And he sort of shows you that there's a screw loose, that there's a chip on his shoulder. He starts going into this thing, right? His goal in life is to just, what did he say? He was like, I'll just do away with the Fire Nation wholeheartedly if it's the last thing I do.
He has a very cool line that I couldn't say now, but is there something to fear of some kids in the trees? He's like, definitely, we're going to rid our woods, our territory, our land of the Fire Nation. We're going to destroy them, get rid of them, however means necessary, it seems.
Yeah.
And then Katara's like, great speech, Jet.
She is lost in the sauce.
She's like, never see. Okay, Haru was cool too. She hasn't seen that many young men with some sauce, you know?
And this guy does have sauce to spare. But is it the kind you'd want on your McNugget? Who knows?
I like honey barbecue.
I like sweet and sour and honey barbecue. And I get them in tandem. I dip one half of the nugget in one sauce, I flip it over, and I dip the other half of the nugget in another.
So
and
as
I
not
eat.
to commingle the sauces within their own containers. Yes.
Yeah, because you want the sauce experiences to remain separate. But the kicker of it is you eat the nugget in one bite.
So in
You
this
experience both sauces without them ever having to mingle.
in this scenario, Jet would be the honey barbecue, and Sokka would
Jet
be
is a sauce?
Sokka would be the buttermilk ranch.
Sokka is a sauce? They're both...
Within their own containers,
They're
each powerful in their own right.
And they are both so saucy.
So saucy.
They can hardly contain it. Okay. So what do you think is going through Sokka's brain as he's listening to this guy monologue?
Sokka is a leader in his actions. His thought is plain because he does it.
Yeah.
Whatever he thinks he does. And he considers for quite a while and observes. He's, I think, if I can go on a brief trip back to when we met Avatar Roku on the winter solstice.
Sure.
And the solar eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool.
Super
Sokka
cool.
took
Winter
away...
Solstice Part 2, you had to be there.
You had to be there. Go back and listen to it if you didn't. But Sokka met one fire sage who was willing to betray his nation in order to protect the Avatar and to get them out safely when the temple was destroyed. So Sokka
Leadership at the Fire Nation level is like something to not necessarily like abide. You know what I mean? There's a lot of defectors in the Fire Nation.
Right.
Maybe because they're like messing it all up.
Yeah, and Sokka says things like trust his instincts because he does a lot of processing through his actions. And he has now peeled back the layer. Where you are born just because you are Fire Nation does not mean you are the enemy.
So I think Sokka got a really good example when he saw the integrity of that Fire Nation cleric in the whole, blast open the door.
Shayu, the fire sage.
The Shayu Chronicles. Yes. So
5 simultaneous fire blasts. Go back and listen to it.
5 simultaneous fire blasts.
Sokka's like, okay, not impressed or trying not to be impressed. He's aloof, I suppose, to Jet's speech. He's like, yep, but we gotta get going. But Jet hooks him. He's like, yeah, but Sokka, I had you in mind for like a really special mission tomorrow. And like, dude, you're like a soldier, like a warrior, right? From like the Southern Water Tribe. Like, I had you in mind specifically, man, to help me out with this thing in the morning.
Okay. Is that not like what MLMs do? They're literally like, oh my God, I have this job for you. It's a little weird, I will admit, but I want you to sell nutritional supplements just for a little bit. You have no idea how much money you could make. Isn't it one of the, like, it's that same kind of manipulation, that sort of like tear at something that's like lurking behind you in order to get your money, to get your help, to get like, ugh.
Boy, listen.
It's slimy.
That boomerang will sell jelly candies, okay?
What, like it's a prize at the bottom of the box?
Something like that.
Yeah.
The boomerang comes in handy.
They used to put a prize at the bottom of the explosion jelly, but it ended poorly on 4th of July, so they don't do that anymore.
We'll come back to the blasting jelly. Whoa.
That didn't happen. Okay.
So, okay, Jet wowed the audience. They decide to stay for the night.
They do.
For the night.
Just for the night. They're just passing shadows in the ever-longing twilight of love.
It's the blue hour.
Yes.
Sokka awakes.
He awakes to a bump in the night, only to find
Jet and the others preparing
That's
for
Jet.
the morning mission. They hop atop the branches out into the woods, and there is a wandering traveler in the woods who is wearing some red robes.
Yep. And they, from their vantage point, say, wonder if I may plant a trap for the old man.
Sokka does that cool thing with his boomerang. He like stabs it into the tree and listens to it. He can like hear the vibrations.
Oh
He's like,
gosh.
oh yeah, someone's coming. But then he sees
That's
it's just
what it
an
feels
old
like,
man.
dude.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like when you feel out something untrustworthy in someone. That is what it feels like. It feels like you've got your ear to the pulse, you know? Great image. Great device.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But then he sees it's just an old man by himself, and Sokka's like, oh, yo, hold up. No problem.
Yeah.
Doesn't consider the red robes. It's an old man in the woods by himself. But Jet and the boys don't care. They straight up just attack this old man, take him down, take his things.
Yeah, they take his stuff. It's not like a glowing display of character.
Definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
So they go back to the treetop camp and things get twisted. Sokka wants to leave immediately, but there's this question of who's the leader and why are you being so serious? Look, you said to trust your instincts, and then we stumbled into the Fire Nation, and it was Jet that saved us, so Katara wants to hear his side of the story.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because nobody is more trustworthy than the dude who's chilling in the treetops, setting these traps, mobbing these people.
Or your older brother. This is the
Right.
rose-colored glasses.
That's the effect.
Yeah.
You said that he has like bad boy appeal.
Yes, and he's a master manipulator. He was manipulating them from the moment he swooped in and saved them. So
Gooey.
that's not Katara's fault.
Yeah.
She ain't had any experience with that.
Right, and I think he sees that and exploits it.
You definitely.
Yeah. Blah. That's
Blah.
Jet.
Bleh. Yeah, for
That's
so many
Jet.
reasons.
So
but
you see that event and you're like, that's Jet.
that's Jet.
Mm-hmm. That's what he does. And of course, he's got all these excuses, but we'll get to those. Who's tall, dark, and handsome? That's Jet. Who might hold you for ransom? That's Jet. Who's borderline, just paranoid? Whose slimy charms getting me annoyed?
That's Jet.
Ooh, that's Jet. So we see what Jet really is.
Slime ball.
Slimy dude.
Just some
Slimy.
just some fungus in the treetops.
Oh my gosh. Fungus among us.
So
Okay, I have a serious question. Is there any part of Sokka that is jealous of Jet's, like the fact that Jet is being trusted over him? Like, just jealousy play in that, or is it just all altruistic?
I think it's purely a like brawn that Sokka is competing with. It seems like Jet's probably a little bit older, he's a little bit taller, he's a little more world-wise and has the experience. Sokka literally just came from the South Pole. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he wants to compete, but he is learning. And Jet is very quick, he's very fast. So,
yes.
But no, I think he reminded me at the time too of my big brother. Just like doesn't mention the fact that there's flirting going on. Let that go.
Right.
That's whatever. But he doesn't like him, obviously.
He waits idly by and waits for a problem.
Yeah. He's watching. He's observing.
Not going to make a problem. He waits. He waits for one.
Right.
Yeah.
So they don't leave because dun dun dun. Jet swoops in and he twists the story and he's like, oh my God.
Of course he twists it. Master manipulator.
Makes them question Sokka's character.
And he knows how to do that. The button to push here, the thing in Jet's playbook, he's going to appeal to their sense of justice.
Right.
That is what he sees as their greatest weakness. But actually, dude, it's the opposite.
You made out me to be a mugger
yeah.
and didn't even mention he was Fire Nation?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because I just thought of it.
And then he pulls
Likely
out this
story.
like wicked knife.
Right. Which I think he just had. He just had it chilling. He didn't take that he didn't take that off the old man's body. He just had that chilling. That's how slimy Jet is. And he's like, if I don't show this to people, they're going to search me and find it. Because that's how it would have played out if he hadn't revealed that knife. So there's this other level of like completely, like, how can you live like that? How can you live like you're just like playing the board game Risk, like intense strategy for like every
like
decision?
just telltale abuser behavior. He is an abusive person of power in a lot of situations, it seems.
And influence,
too. Influence,
yeah.
Yes. And he is ashamed of the behavior he displayed that Sokka witnessed.
Yeah.
And so he will make up a story about, look, he was an assassin, there's poison, he was out to get me, which makes you sound like super paranoid, dude. But also, like, how old are you? Like 16? Anyway.
You're not old enough to be that world weary.
You're not Robin Hood,
fella.
okay?
Right. You're Robin Hood, you're Pan.
Yeah, you're a pretty feeble Pan at this point in my man, but still dealing with some crap.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
So then there's like another mission, right?
Right.
He's got another job for the gang.
They can't
leave. And it would
leave.
be super cool if they helped out. So then it's the next morning.
Right. There is an opportunity that they will miss without the Avatar's help, obviously.
Yeah, he's got another proposition for them. He's like, hey, can you guys help out on one thing?
Right. If you leave, the Fire Nation's going to burn down our woods and they're going to continue occupying our lands and we won't have freedom. We're the freedom fighters. Help us fight, Avatar. So Aang, 12-year-old child, says, sure, we'll help you with that.
Right.
So the next day, Sokka gets up, sneaks behind him, tracks Jet and some of the boys to the dam. Now there's a dam and an empty reservoir that leads like past the town at the end of it, basically.
Bunch of little holes in the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the plan?
So the plan, Sokka hears that they plan to blow up the dam using that blasting jelly.
This is like elemental organized crime, this enterprise.
This is a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
He's going to blow up a dam.
Blow up a dam what? Ha ha ha.
A river dam.
Ha ha ha. Who's on first? Okay. Keep going.
He's going to take those barrels of blasting jelly and Longshot's going to be up in the branches and he's going to take his aim and fire and it's going to go.
Oh my gosh.
Boom.
And everybody's supposed to be on board because this dude thinks that he's warped their little minds so far that they just do whatever he proposes.
But then Sokka gets caught in the trees and is like, yo, don't do this. And they're like, you can't tell anybody. Take a long walk. And Sokka, being far more competent than most people ever give him credit for, takes a short walk and trips two traps of the Fire Nation that, from previously in the episode, caught some monkeys and Momo.
Oh, okay.
Pipsqueak and Smellerbee go up in the traps, and then Sokka is free and clear.
Can we just do a brief name appreciation for Pipsqueak and Smellerbee? Those names just roll off the tongue.
They are freedom fighters. They're good names.
They are good names.
Inventive.
Freedom fighters. They're lost boys.
So, yeah, they're up in the traps. Sokka's free and clear. And then we go to Jet, Katara, and Aang. Who are going to release the groundwater from the venting holes in the ground to fill the reservoir.
Just a little light terrorism.
Because that's what Jet says they need to do to help.
Yeah. I think this episode, Jet is the antagonist, right? But you know what's the enemy? Groupthink.
Dun, dun.
I think groupthink because Jet wants to foster a reality for his lost boys. He's going to make sure there's food on the table. He's going to make sure that your needs are cared for and that you're safe in the trees and that you feel secure in your societal position that is at odds with greater society. But it's for the cause, you know?
Yeah.
Groupthink.
Plagued by Things like, in this Lost Boy situation, confirmation bias of past experience. The evidence of outcomes has shown that when they trust what Jet says, they are fed, they are clothed, they are fine. So outcomes prove we do what Jet says. Don't question it.
That is a manipulator.
Exactly.
Man, this one has claws, and the claws sink in.
They're sharp.
I dare say that this is the most emo Avatar The Last Airbender episode so far.
Oh, that bark bites.
That's a hot take. The bark bites. That's what I would have titled this episode, folks. The bark bites. My wife's
That's
a
Jet.
wordsmith.
So, okay, last movement of the episode.
That's Jet.
Are you ready, AJ?
Yes.
Let's power through the jet stream.
Katara is sure he'll be happy to see them.
So Aang and Katara go to meet Jet at the dam. And that's when they learn that he is planning to blow it up and literally flood an entire village of men, women, and children.
But the upshot is the man keeps jelly beans in the pantry, people. It's worth it in the end.
It's for the greater good, y'all.
It's for the greater good.
So obviously Katara ain't okay with that.
She sees through it.
And Aang steps up as Avatar. You know, he's got to show off and fight the bad guy real quick. So Jet and Aang jump up into the treetops and play a game of cat and mouse and evade.
A captivating game of cat and mouse. But yeah, it's like Tom and Jerry.
So much movement and so many great shots. And the trees are such a creative environment for them to like jump around in. It's so cool.
Right. It's like they're on Endor, you know?
Yeah. And it shows Aang's very airbendiness. And
he is bending the heck out of some air.
It is clear that he has no intent to harm Jet.
He's in control of the jet streams.
He seems to be trying to wear him out.
Yes.
Aang is just running away from him.
Yes.
And then he's like, oh, you got me. And the super like tunnel, like twisty tunnel of air. He like blows him out of the tree.
That was some sweet airbending technique.
Yeah. But then Jet knocks him down to the ground and Katara ain't playing.
No.
In comes the only waterbender of the Southern Water Tribe.
Katara has skills.
Skills that were completely unacknowledged. Like, yeah, the Avatar's great. I taught him waterbending, thank you very much. She just pulls up some water and blows and freezes him to the tree like it's nothing.
And my mind goes to the opening montage where the first thing you see is her yelling at Sokka, saying, what about the memory of my daddy? And she's so mad that she bends some water there too. That's like the genesis of the Avatar. That's like why the Avatar is like happening now in the first place. What does that mean?
This next statement might be because I just watched the series Katla on Netflix that is about things happening and coming out of a glacier, but...
Katla? How do you spell that?
Katla.
Katla is the name of the show?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. What's that about?
It is about a glacier and crazy things ensuing and coming out of the ice, which is
okay.
part of what spawned this thought, but I think that Katara is very connected to the Avatar spirit because Aang was literally frozen in the ice beneath her home and she was the only waterbender, so I think she could sense his presence for a long time.
Katara, whether she's fully conscious of this or what it means, because to her, she could just be thinking of the reason I have like the savior of all people in my crew. Like, she might think of that as just pure fate. I wonder if she doesn't... Like, at what point did she consider, maybe I was put on this place to be this dude's awakener?
Yeah.
Like, what's the implication there, and is she aware of it?
I think that...
I don't know.
Katara will definitely consider fate and destiny and purpose more in the episodes to come, but I think at this point she does believe that this was supposed to happen and that she and Aang were supposed to meet.
And there's a cool comeuppance for Jet, isn't there?
Yeah, so Katara...
Ice cold.
Ice cold. Tells him off. Leaves Jet in the ice. But Longshot, to his name, unfortunately, is already in the trees with the flaming arrow.
Right.
Arrow.
Flaming Oreo?
A flaming arrow. He draws back. He aims. He takes his shot. And the blasting jelly barrels are good. They're blown to bits, and the dam is just blown wide open.
Just blown wide open.
And there goes the river, and there goes the town, and for a moment, we fear...
It looks a little grim for a second.
That things have gone
the doll,
a bad way.
The way the doll floats across the water, I was like, is this a mass casualty event? Like...
Yeah, it was quite wretched for a moment, but...
And then it wasn't a mass casualty event because Sokka had a card.
Sokka has good instincts.
He does, and he trusted them.
He warned the village. They got out in time. Nothing happened except the dam blew up, and who knows who's going to have to pay for that.
Don't think with your loins, Katara. Don't think with your loins.
She learned that lesson.
There's a difference, Katara, between your gut and your heart.
And it's okay to be taken up, swept up by a cute boy sometimes. But always be a good judge of character and trust your big brother.
Okay, so animators take note because they have that flashback. Sokka is like coming in, he like flies in, he's like, guess what? My savvy saved the day, and here's how. And then they took these beautiful little, this beautiful way of like telling you about Sokka's triumph in the village and his foresight and his negotiation.
In the like black and white sketches?
Yes, this is what I wanted to say. Take note, animators, because I'm not an animator, but I really enjoyed this. They made it sepia, which I love. I love sepia to represent the past. It's just a good look. And then they also had them scroll, so they weren't just static images. Another cartoon might have had static images. Not Nick. Nick's got big bucks. Our stuff's going to scroll, and it looked really good. So, sorry, scroll is not the right word. It pans. It pans, and I love it.
It pans.
It pans. It's a left to right pan, and then a right to left pan.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're still with us,
Pan fans, listen up.
I'm hereby declaring Sokka the pan of this episode.
He is the pan.
He's the real Lost Boy.
I feel like Jet being Sokka's challenge was really nice. And I thought seeing Sokka's challenge without seeing it was very impactful in getting you psychologically into Katara's head.
Yes.
The goal of the episode was, I mean, literally that first montage tells you, we're going to be Katara for a little bit.
What did we learn about what it means to be a leader? Was Sokka a good one? Were his instincts good? And were Katara's instincts good?
You said earlier that you relate to Katara.
Sure.
You feel for her?
Absolutely. Okay. I think I understand her here. I think Katara is far from home, and she has two very close people she cares about. And she is swept up in some recent experience and recent adventure.
Yep.
And it is easy to dismiss Katara's judgment in this episode as her being young or her being infatuated or having some puppy love, or it is easy to dismiss her for that. But at the end of the day, Katara feels very powerfully. And I think that her instinct was to stay. For whatever reason. Sure, she liked Jet, but she felt firmly they had to stay. And had they not stayed, Sokka would not have been able to save that village when they blew up the dam.
Which can be judgment in and of itself. That's what you're saying, right? That she saw something that she wanted to supervise?
She saw that they were needed. somehow.
Oh, okay. So there's a master plan. But then in the interim, Katara kind of makes it seem like she is not being the best at judgment.
No, I don't think that she had an understanding of why she needed to make the decision to stay and firmly stay, but I think her instincts told her to stay.
And I think that primed her for wanting to escape, if only for a moment. She's arguing with her punk brother, and she lets loose, and now she has to be like the steward of the savior of like her entire species, you know?
Right.
Okay, and then your brother has to come with? Ugh. Do anything to get out of... I mean, seriously. Any bad boy could start to look pretty good if this is my life now, you know?
You know, and...
primed for escapism, I think.
Jenkins, I mean, you like one boy and he blows up a dam. She's got some crap to deal with.
And maybe she needs to refine her tastes in men.
Wink, wink.
Maybe this was a great opportunity for her to do it without, say, a mass casualty event.
Yeah, no harm done.
Katara, next time, don't fall in love with a terrorist, okay? Trust me, it never works out.
She's a very fast learner.
Let's hope she is. Jeez.
So I think that we have talked enough. Thank you for hanging with us. We will see you next time on one of the most Avatar episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Great Divide. Next time.
Kaylee tells me I have a lot to look forward to with the next one. That it's one of the greats.
Some of the deepest wisdom of the Avatar next time. Just lie. Just make it up. Well, can't wait to get to that.
I'm ready for whatever comes next. Thank you so much for listening to us. I'm AJ.
I'm Kailey.
This is Atlas Shrugged.
The Avatar: The Last Airbender podcast. Thanks, guys.